Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something straight from the heart. If you really want a man to step up, if you really want him to see your worth and realize that he can't live without you, sometimes the best thing you can do is vanish. I'm not talking about playing childish games. I'm talking about stepping back with dignity, with self-respect, and letting him feel what life is like when you're not around, because men value what they fear losing. When it comes to relationships, one truth always stands strong. Men value what they fear losing. A man may admire, he may even like, but he doesn't truly cherish until the thought of losing you becomes real. The moment he feels like you're always there, no matter how he treats you, he gets comfortable. Comfort is dangerous because comfort breeds complacency, and complacency kills pursuit. A man stops chasing when he believes he already has you in his pocket. He stops fighting for your attention when he assumes that your attention will always belong to him. But the second you create distance, the second you step back, suddenly his world changes. He starts questioning himself. He starts wondering why the energy shifted. He starts realizing how much he took for granted. That's the power of making a man feel the possibility of loss. Men are wired to fight for what they want. Since the beginning of time, they've been hunters. But when the prize sits too long in the open, it stops looking like a prize. He thinks he doesn't have to do anything to keep it. He thinks he can just coast, and you'll stay no matter what. That's why you need to remind him without saying a single word that you are not afraid to step away. You remind him that your presence in his life is a blessing, not a guarantee. You remind him that access to you is earned, not given freely. That reminder only hits him when he feels your absence. That absence makes him revalue your worth. And suddenly, what he thought was normal becomes something rare. When you disappear from unnecessary availability, you make space for him to miss you. You create room for him to feel the silence. And silence, as strange as it sounds, is louder than any conversation. A text unanswered, a call not returned immediately, an evening spent focusing on your own life instead of running to him. Those moments are what shake him. They remind him that your world does not revolve around him. And that realization, that's when fear sets in. Fear of losing you to someone else. Fear of losing the comfort, the care, the love he's come to depend on. That fear forces him to act because men value what they fear losing. The power of absence isn't about games or manipulation. It's about showing him the reality of who you are. You are independent. You are strong. You are capable of walking away if your worth isn't recognized. And men, deep down, respect the woman who knows how to draw those boundaries. Respect grows when he sees that you're not desperate for his attention, but dignity, self-control, and independence, those qualities light a fire in a man's heart. They make him want to rise up, to prove himself worthy, to show you that he understands just how valuable you are. When a man realizes he could lose you, he starts to see you differently. He notices the little things he overlooked. He remembers the laughter, the comfort, the support you gave without asking for anything in return. He starts connecting dots in his mind, realizing that no one else has ever brought that kind of energy into his life. And once he makes that connection, the fear grows stronger. He begins to understand that letting you slip away will be the biggest mistake of his life. That's when he shifts from casual to serious. from hesitation to commitment. Men don't beg for what's easy, but they do beg for what they believe is irreplaceable. And when you give him the gift of missing you, you teach him that lesson. The fear of losing you transforms his whole perspective. He'll stop taking you for granted and start taking you seriously. He'll see that you're not just someone he can date casually. You're someone he needs to marry, someone he needs to lock in before another man gets the chance. Because men value what they fear losing. And if he fears losing you, that fear will drive him to do whatever it takes to keep you forever. When it comes to love and relationships, one truth cannot be denied. Men value what they fear losing. A man will not truly recognize your worth until he feels the possibility of losing it. The comfort of your constant presence makes him think that he doesn't have to try, that he doesn't have to put in the effort, that he can coast through and you'll always be there. And comfort like that becomes dangerous because it blinds him to what he has. It makes him assume you'll never walk away. That's why you have to remind him that your presence is a blessing, not a guarantee. You have to remind him that access to your love is a privilege, not an entitlement. And the only way that lesson sinks in is when you step back and let him feel your absence. Men only start to value what they sense they could lose. And when he feels that shift, everything changes. Now here's the thing, disappearing from unnecessary availability is how you create that shift. It doesn't mean cutting him off completely or playing immature games. It means no longer showing up every single time he calls. It means no longer dropping everything in your world to fit into his. It means putting your priorities back on the table and showing him that you have a life, a purpose, and an identity that doesn't revolve around him. Because if you're too available, he doesn't have room to miss you. If you answer every call, reply to every text within seconds, show up at every request, you train him to believe you'll always be there. And once he believes that, the chase dies. His urgency fades, and without urgency, there's no pursuit. When you step back, when you disappear just enough, you force him to notice the silence. That silence makes him think. He begins to wonder why your energy feels different. He starts questioning what happened to the woman who used to always respond right away. And that questioning brings fear. The fear that maybe you've realized your worth. The fear that maybe someone else has your attention. The fear that maybe his comfort has cost him your presence. That fear is exactly what wakes him up, because a man values what he fears losing. See, when you disappear from unnecessary availability, you don't just teach him a lesson. You also protect your energy. You stop pouring endlessly into someone who's not pouring back. You stop over-investing in a situation that isn't giving you what you deserve. And when you do that, you glow differently. You walk differently. You carry yourself with a dignity that cannot be ignored. That glow, that energy becomes magnetic. Suddenly, he sees you not as someone who's always waiting, but as someone who could walk away. And that realization flips a switch in his heart. Men are natural pursuers. They rise to challenges, but they only pursue when they sense that the prize could slip away. By vanishing from unnecessary availability, you become the prize again. You remind him that you're not ordinary, you're not replaceable, and you're not desperate for his time, that reminder creates urgency. Urgency creates pursuit, and pursuit leads to commitment. When he starts to feel that distance, he'll think back to all the little things you did. He'll replay the moments he overlooked. He'll realize that no one else has ever cared for him the way you did, and the thought of losing that will shake him to his core. That's when he begins to fight for you. Not just casually, but with a seriousness that wasn't there before. He starts to step up, to prove, to reassure, because the fear of losing you is stronger than the comfort of keeping you. And when he feels that fear deeply enough, it pushes him toward the ultimate commitment. That's when he decides he can't risk losing you. That marriage is the only way to secure what he's been taking for granted. Disappearing from unnecessary availability is not about manipulation. It's about self-respect. It's about reminding him that you're valuable. And once that value sinks in, he'll do whatever it takes to keep you. Because men value what they fear losing, and the absence of your constant availability will make him beg to hold on to you forever. Men value what they fear losing. And that simple truth is what shapes how they act in relationships. If he believes you'll always be there no matter what, he doesn't feel urgency. He doesn't feel the need to rise up or to fight for you, because in his mind, you're already secured. That's why so many women end up feeling unappreciated. Because when you give too much without boundaries, a man begins to see it as routine. He stops recognizing it as special. But the second you shift your energy, the second you step back, suddenly he starts to realize that what he thought was permanent might not be. That realization changes everything. It creates fear. Fear of losing something valuable. And that fear is what pushes him to act. The way to create that shift is by disappearing from unnecessary availability. That doesn't mean shutting him out or ignoring him completely, but it does mean protecting your time, your energy, and your self-respect. It means not always answering immediately when he calls. It means not dropping your plans just because he suddenly has time for you. It means making it clear without words that you are not someone who can be taken for granted. When you are always available, he stops valuing your presence. When you step back and choose your own priorities, he suddenly realizes that he can't just call the shots. He sees that you have a life that doesn't revolve around him. And that awareness makes him start paying attention. But here's the part that makes the deepest impact. Letting him feel the silence and emptiness. Nothing wakes a man up more than the space you leave behind when you stop overgiving. Silence is louder than any speech. That missed call that doesn't get returned right away. That unanswered text that lingers longer than usual. That absence of constant checking in. Those small things shake him. At first, he brushes it off, but then it starts to eat at him. He begins to think, what changed? Why isn't she chasing me like before? What if she's losing interest? What if someone else has her attention? That silence creates a storm in his mind. It makes him realize that your presence was never guaranteed. It was a gift he was overlooking. Emptiness does something powerful to a man's heart. When you're always there, he doesn't notice the little things you bring into his life, the laughter, the support, the comfort of knowing someone cares. But the moment that space feels empty, all of those things rush back into his memory. He remembers how you made him feel, and the absence of it makes him restless. That restlessness turns into appreciation because he finally sees that what he had with you isn't something he can replace easily. And when a man feels that kind of emptiness, he starts to fight. He starts to chase. He starts to prove himself in ways he never did before. Because silence and emptiness exposed just how much he really needs you. This isn't about manipulation, it's about balance. You're not vanishing to punish him, you're vanishing to protect your worth and to remind him of it. The silence teaches him what your words never could, that your love, your time, your presence are not things he can take lightly. And when he truly feels that emptiness, when he sees that your world doesn't stop just because his does, that's when the fear sets in, the fear of losing you forever. That fear transforms his mindset. Suddenly, he doesn't just want you around casually. He doesn't just want your presence when it's convenient. He wants to secure you, to make sure that he never has to feel that emptiness again. That's when the conversation shifts toward commitment, toward locking you in his life permanently. That's when he decides he can't risk losing you to another man, can't risk living without the warmth you bring, and that's when he'll beg to keep you forever. Because men value what they fear losing. Disappearing from unnecessary availability makes them notice, and letting him feel the silence and emptiness makes him realize your worth in a way he never could when you were always present. Men value what they fear losing, and that single truth is what drives their actions more than anything else in a relationship. If he feels you will always be there no matter how he behaves, he loses the motivation to fight for you. He becomes comfortable, and comfort creates a false sense of security. He assumes your love is permanent, guaranteed, something he doesn't have to earn. But when you shift your energy, when you pull back and show him that you are not afraid to step away, that fear rises in him. Suddenly, he begins to imagine what life would be like without you, and that fear changes his entire approach. That fear is what wakes him up to your value and makes him fight for you. The way to spark that awareness is to disappear from unnecessary availability. Too often people make themselves too easy to reach, too quick to respond, too willing to bend their schedules and their boundaries. And while that may feel like love, it actually kills the pursuit. If you are always available, a man has no chance to miss you. He never gets the opportunity to wonder where you are, what you're doing, or who you might be with. But when you choose to protect your time and space, when you stop running every time he calls, you create an environment where he begins to question. That questioning leads to reflection, and that reflection leads to fear. The fear that maybe he doesn't have you as secured as he thought. That is when he starts to step up. Letting him feel the silence and emptiness is the next step that pushes him further. Silence speaks volumes. A missed text, a call that isn't returned right away, an evening you spend focused on your own goals instead of being available for him. All of those moments create a void. At first he may not notice, but slowly that emptiness becomes louder than words. He begins to replay all the little things you used to do. He remembers how you made him feel. He realizes how much of his comfort depended on your constant presence. And when that comfort is gone, when silence fills the space where your energy used to be, he finally understands that he has been taking you for granted. That realization stirs his emotions, and it forces him to see that he could actually lose something rare and irreplaceable. What strengthens this even more is self-respect and independence, because those qualities make you magnetic. When a woman shows that she has boundaries, that she values her own time, and that she will not sacrifice her peace for anyone who doesn't match her effort, that energy commands respect. Independence creates attraction because it sends a message that you are not desperate for love, you are choosing who gets access to you. And men deep down respect and admire what they cannot control. They are drawn to the woman who knows her worth and will not accept less than what she deserves. That magnetism forces him to rise to her level, to prove that he can match her strength, because he knows she could walk away at any time. When all of this comes together, the fear of losing you, the disappearance from unnecessary availability, the silence that makes him restless, and the independence that makes you glow, he begins to change. He starts to feel urgency, and urgency drives pursuit. He starts to realize that no other woman compares to the way you carry yourself. He begins to understand that if he doesn't step up, someone else will. That thought terrifies him, because now he sees clearly that you are valuable, rare, and not replaceable. That is the moment when everything shifts. He doesn't just want your presence. He wants to secure it. He doesn't just want your time, he wants your lifetime. And when that fear of losing you collides with the magnetism of your independence, he won't just ask to be with you casually. He'll beg to marry you, because the thought of life without you is something he cannot bear. Men value what they fear losing. And this truth never fails to show itself in relationships. A man may enjoy your company. He may like having you around, but until he feels the possibility of losing you, he doesn't grasp your true worth. Comfort can blind him, and when he feels you'll always be there no matter what, he begins to take you for granted. But when you shift your energy, when you create distance, that comfort is shaken. Suddenly, the thought of losing you enters his mind, and that fear wakes him up. It forces him to re-examine his actions and realize how much he stands to lose. This is why disappearing from unnecessary availability is so important. Being too available can make your presence feel ordinary instead of extraordinary. When every call is answered immediately, when every request is met without hesitation, he doesn't have the chance to appreciate your effort. But when you pull back, when you stop rearranging your world to fit into his, you make him see that access to you is not automatic. You create room for him to miss you. You create space for him to reflect on what life feels like when you are not always there. That absence is powerful because it reminds him that your time and attention are valuable and he must earn them. Letting him feel the silence and emptiness strengthens this lesson even more. Silence unsettles a man's mind. A text unanswered, a call delayed, a night where he doesn't hear from you. These moments echo louder than arguments ever could. They create a void that makes him think, and thinking leads to realization. He begins to remember the comfort of your laughter, the warmth of your support, and the peace of knowing you care. When those things are no longer constant, he realizes just how much they meant to him. That emptiness makes him restless, and restlessness turns into urgency. He begins to understand that you are not something he can afford to lose. But what truly makes the shift permanent is your self-respect and independence. A woman who knows her worth, who refuses to chase or beg, who carries herself with dignity, becomes magnetic. Independence draws him in because it shows you don't need him to complete you. You choose to share your life, and that choice makes your presence even more valuable. Self-respect tells him you have boundaries, and those boundaries force him to rise to your level. He begins to admire you not just for what you give, but for the strength you carry within. That admiration builds attraction, and attraction leads to pursuit. And this is where the turning point comes. When you stop chasing, he starts pursuing. A man will not chase what is already running after him. But the moment you stop, the moment you redirect your energy into your own life, he feels the shift. He feels the absence of your attention, and that absence pushes him into action. He begins to realize that if he doesn't step up, if he doesn't claim his place in your life, someone else will. That fear becomes his motivation. The chase is reignited, but this time he's the one doing the work. He's the one proving himself, and he's the one fighting to earn you. All of these pieces come together to create one powerful truth. When a man feels the fear of losing you, when you're no longer always available, when silence and emptiness remind him of your value, when your self-respect makes you magnetic, and when you stop chasing so he has no choice but to pursue, he changes. He no longer looks at you as someone casual, he looks at you as someone he cannot risk losing. That's when he shifts from comfort to commitment. That's when he decides that the only way to secure you in his life is through marriage. And that's when he'll beg to make you his forever. Men value what they fear losing, and that simple truth shapes everything in how they respond to love. If a man thinks you will always be there no matter how he acts, he gets too comfortable. Comfort blinds him, and that blindness makes him believe your presence is permanent. But the moment you step back, the moment he feels the risk of losing you, something changes inside of him. That fear becomes the fuel that pushes him to act differently, to fight for you, to hold on to you in ways he never did before. The way to make him feel that shift is to disappear from unnecessary availability. Being too available makes him stop appreciating you because he never has to earn your time or your attention. If every call is answered and every plan is dropped just to be with him, he won't feel urgency. But when you protect your time and stop giving yourself away so easily, he begins to notice. He starts to see that access to you isn't guaranteed. That reminder makes him realize that if he doesn't step up, he could lose something valuable. Letting him feel the silence and emptiness makes that realization even stronger. Silence works louder than words. When he doesn't hear from you like before, when the constant comfort of your presence fades, it unsettles him. That emptiness forces him to think about what you brought into his life. He starts to remember your laughter, your support, your care. And when those things are missing, the weight of that loss becomes heavy. That's when he begins to see how much he has taken for granted, and the thought of living without it shakes him deeply. What makes this even more powerful is self-respect and independence, because those qualities make you magnetic. A woman who stands firm in her worth, who shows she doesn't need a man to complete her but chooses to share her life, becomes irresistible. Independence creates attraction because it signals that your happiness and confidence don't depend on him, and that, in turn, makes him want to rise up to your level. Your self-respect tells him you are not afraid to walk away, and that alone makes him value you more. When you stop chasing, he starts pursuing. A man cannot chase someone who is running after him, but the moment you stop, everything flips. Your energy shifts back into your own life, your own goals, your own happiness, and that shift leaves him feeling your absence even more. Suddenly, he feels the urge to chase, because now he realizes he might not be the center of your attention anymore. That fear drives him to step forward, to prove himself, to show that he deserves you. And when all of this combines, vanishing creates urgency and commitment in his heart. He feels the fear of losing you, the sting of your absence, the silence that makes him restless, the magnetism of your independence, and the pressure of knowing you won't chase him anymore. That storm inside of him pushes him toward one conclusion, that if he doesn't act fast, he could lose you forever. That urgency makes him pursue you harder than ever, and that pursuit turns into a desire for commitment. He no longer wants you casually, he wants you permanently. That's when he moves beyond dating and beyond convenience. That's when he decides he wants you as his forever, and he'll beg to make you his wife, because losing you is no longer an option in his heart.